fewer meals on wheels? That could certainly be the case if federal budget cuts occur in 4 days. But Florida appetites aren't the only thing that could suffer. Florida healthcare could take a hit too. And in sports, defense stole the show during FAMU's matchup against South Carolina State over the weekend. And with all that rainfall lately, Tallahassee streets looked more like raging waters. We'll tell you what's to come. Your News 20 at 5 starts right now.
From the highest of 7 hills in Florida's capital city, covering every corner of the Big Bend, this is the award-winning News 20 at 5 Live.
Well, March 1st could have a painful effect on Floridians. Good evening, I'm Valeria Sistrunk. Tanya Glover will be joining us shortly. We're going to talk about first the effects of budget cuts in the moment. But first, let's join Lecrae Mitchell, who has the latest for us on this severe weather. Lecrae?
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to News 20 at 5. It's been some very severe weather in Florida today, the Sunshine State, especially across the Florida Panhandle, where we have reports of tornadoes along I-10, Interstate 10, and we also have some water spouts that have moved along shore and damaging winds all across the area, as you can see. Now, if we take a look on Tallahassee, we can see that we will be experiencing some severe thunderstorms tonight, and we are actually on a flash flood warning until 3:08 tomorrow afternoon. As a result of these possible floods that we may be experiencing, the Leon County Schools Emergency Management has put into place some sandbag locations where residents can go pick up sandbags in order to prevent further damage by these possible floods that we may be experiencing. These locations include the J. Lee Vals Park on Old Bainbridge Road, Tequista Park at Tequista Drive and Deer Lake Road, and Kalarin Lakes, and Ranchero Road off of Oak Ridge Road. So definitely, if you haven't prepared for these floods, you may want to check out these 3 locations that I've named, because Leon County Schools has just given us word that they will have sandbag locations set up at these 3 different locations.
Thanks, Lecrae. Well, automatic budget cuts will kick in on that date if the federal government doesn't create a plan. Federal officials say the sequester could affect several aspects. The National Education Association says about 2,500 Florida teachers could lose jobs. The state's first responder grant will be cut too by more than $2 million. And food inspector layoffs could impact 266 food processing plants. Florida's military could also take a hit in several days. The Pentagon says more than 20,000 civilian employees could take a pay cut. Also, the Army and the Air Force could lose more than $160 million in building project funds. Florida alone could lose about 30,000 private defense-related jobs as well. And NASA and Florida airports could have to brace for cuts as well. The FAA says all airport workers would be furloughed for 11 days. That means longer wait times for passengers. Officials say NASA would have to cut $900 million from its budget. To learn more about potential cuts, log on to FAMUTVnews.com, then click on As Seen on TV, the link. Well, education and the military aren't the only entities being affected by sequestration. Social services, in particular the elderly, will feel its impact. News 20 at 5 reporter Alexandria Collins joins us live in the multimedia newsroom with the very latest.
The next 10 years could be difficult for entities like Meals on Wheels. Over 60% of their funding comes from the government, and some of that will be taken away. But this service is facing sequestration. In Florida, senior nutrition programs will be cut by an estimated $2.7 million. That means over 1 million meals will be lost. Volunteer Jim Croteau knows that this will have repercussions.
So it's a sad state that all the arguing going on, that the people who are going to end up sacrificing are the people who could least afford it.
Elderly Care Services Center only feeds about 386 seniors 5 days a week. They have a long waiting list and are at risk of deficit spending to keep up with the demand. Budget cuts are affecting our national economy. $85 billion will be cut for the rest of the fiscal year, which ends in September. Areas like healthcare and social services and more are feeling the brunt of those cuts. Although the budget cuts will take effect on March 1st around the country, Mark Baldino is hopeful that the government officials will act differently in the future.
Well, I'm hopeful that the government will recognize that these people have worked all their lives, they've contributed, they've paid in to Social Security, and they deserve to be taken care of.
Florida is one of the top 10 states in the nation that has senior citizens facing the risk of hunger. According to the Florida Council on Aging, over 47,000 seniors are on the waiting list for home care programs. That number is only projected to rise with the budget cuts. Live in the Multimedia Newsroom, I'm Alexandria Collins.
News 20 at 5 reporter Tanya Glover joins us live with the very latest. Tanya, what can you tell us about those budget cuts?
That's right, Valeria. As you said, Florida can expect a lot of budget cuts from education to transportation, but healthcare for women will suffer in major ways as well. Partially affected by the automatic budget cuts that are set to take effect on March 1st. And some of those major cuts will directly affect women and their health care. More than 1,000 low-income or underinsured Florida women won't receive cancer screenings for breast and ovarian cancer due to a loss of nearly $256,000.
If people are screened and cancers are discovered at an early stage, 1 or 2, treatments such as chemotherapy and radiation are far more likely to be successful.
According to nationalbreastcancer.org, breast cancer is the most commonly diagnosed cancer in women and the second leading cause of death among women. And although rare, an estimated 2,150 men will be diagnosed with breast cancer and approximately 410 will die each year.
Cancer is staged from stage 1 to 4. Cancers that are in stage 1 are treated and mostly curable. Stage 4 cancers are much less likely to be cured. Our goal is always to cure cancer.
According to ovariancancerinstitute.org, ovarian cancer is the leading cause of death from gynecological cancers in the United States. It will strike 20,000 women this year, and nearly half of them will not survive. The cuts will slash $85 billion from the federal budget for the rest of fiscal 2013, which ends September 30th. Live in the studio, I'm Tanya Glover for News 20 at 5.
Thank you, Tanya. Well, when it rains, it floods. At least that's the case for Franklin Boulevard. Residents of the roadway have been dealing with drainage problems for years. Now under construction, residents can begin looking forward to less flooding. According to Blueprint 2000, the group funding the construction, the street drains should be fixed in 4 to 6 months. And Florida residents now have a say in how the Gulf of Mexico will be restored. The public can submit project ideas for rebuilding the coast. Funding will come from the oil spill penalties Florida will collect. The Restore Act requires that most of the penalties go toward projects dealing with economic restoration. And a Florida Senate Health Committee met today to discuss the cost of expanding Medicaid. That would expand coverage to about 900,000 residents. The committee is hoping to make a decision within the first few weeks of the legislative session. The legislative session starts March 5th. Well, coming up on News 20 at 5, what happened to be an exciting finish on Daytona Speedway turned tragic in an instant. Also, it appears guns and motorcycles have something in common. At least they do in Florida. Stay tuned. You're watching News 20 at 5.